Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
The terminal's telling us we've got 16 inches potentially coming to Manhattan with a newly minted mayor and a big test when it comes to handling the storm in the biggest city in the world. Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis knows all about it. The Republican from New York joins us right now to talk about this, the future of her district and politics here in Washington. Congresswoman, it's great to have you back. Is New York ready for this?
I hope so, and I believe we will be. New York's the type of city that in many ways can run on autopilot, but I do believe that you have enough individuals, particularly the rank and file men and women who go out there every day to keep our city safe and clean. They're going to be the ones really running the show on the ground, and I have full faith that they'll be able to do it.
Saw the briefing earlier from Mayor Mamdani. He says school days are canceled. This could be fraught politically, Congresswoman. But I'm just wondering if you buy into this media narrative that this is the big test, that this is do or die for New York's new mayor.
Look, I think nothing upsets people more than if they come out of their house and their streets are not plowed properly. We saw this before with definitely de Blasio. A lot of people were very upset about the way they mishandled snowstorms. So I think, there's no Republican or Democrat way to take out the garbage, they say. And I believe that the same thing when it comes to shoveling the snow and plowing the snow. So I think it is a test. It is. He'll definitely get the heat if it's not cleaned properly, and he certainly probably won't get the credit if it is done well. It'll go to the men and women on the ground. So it's like a no-win situation for politicians.
Wow. Well, that's even-handed analysis. I guess whether you're Zohran Mamdani or Greg Abbott, this is a very real test as a lot of people are hunkering down here. I've got to ask you, Congresswoman, what it's like to wake up in the morning and hear from a judge that your workplace should no longer exist. I'm referring to the ruling that we discussed on Bloomberg, and I know that you have some, I'm sure, pretty strong thoughts about this. This is your first national interview since a judge ruled that your district should be redrawn. You're no stranger to redistricting in New York, and I'm wondering what will be your recourse.
Look, we fought this battle in 2022 and 2024 successfully. Here we are again, third time running for re-election, and it's the third time we're having a fight over the district map. And this is because the Democrats simply can't beat me on merit, on policy, on debate. In 2020, this seat was represented by a Democrat, and the people of Staten Island, Southern Brooklyn fired that individual because he was doing a bad job. They hired me, a Republican. I am the only Republican who represents our city in Washington. But the bottom line here is that it was the people's choice. Now you have a Washington law firm who's basically saying, we don't care what the people of Staten Island say, how they vote. We want to be able to fix this map so they can never elect a Republican ever again. They're going to get stuck with the Democrat that we say is going to be the one to run there. And that is very unfortunate. That is certainly not what you expect from the people who call themselves the defenders of democracy. And we're going to fight it tooth and nail. And if we have to take it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, we will, because we need to fight to protect the voices of this group of constituents that I represent who have spoken very loud and clearly in the last few elections.
Well, this, if I understand the case, the court ruled the boundaries of your district, the 11th year, unfairly dilutes Black and Latino voters. What would be your message to those voters?
Well, I'm the first Hispanic, half Cuban, to represent this district, the first minority. So that's kind of interesting that they would claim that. But what's even more ludicrous is their solution. The proposed solution of the plaintiffs is to put Staten Island with Lower Manhattan, which would add more white voters to the district. So it really absolutely makes no sense. It is completely meritless. The only reason it got anywhere, quite frankly, is because the judge was the chief of staff and counsel to Governor Kathy Hochul. You can't just go to your friends on the bench and expect like whatever political outcome you want because you can't win at the ballot box. That's not the way democracy works. And I think it's wrong when Republicans do it as well. I've been very critical, right? I've been very consistent on this issue.
You have.
Political gerrymandering is wrong because it should be the people who elect their representatives, not the other way around.
Yeah, your consistency is noted, Congresswoman. You were the first, I think, Republican on our air to oppose the Texas redistricting that, of course, created a national movement on both sides of the aisle. But this idea of putting lower Manhattan into your districts, could a Republican win in Manhattan?
Look, I think the idea here, their idea, is to make it so difficult where a Republican can never win. And it's not just a Republican winning, my district. This would mean that New York City would no longer have any competitive districts, right? Not one competitive seat. And New York City will never have another Republican representing our city in Washington. I believe bipartisan representation of our city is incredibly important, particularly now where you have a Democrat mayor, you have a Republican president. I think I've done a good job of protecting our city. I went to President Trump when DHS was going to cut Homeland Security counterterrorism funding to our NYPD. We worked to get that money back when they were going to cut World Trade Center healthcare program employees that serve our first responders who are still battling illnesses from 9/11. I fought DOJ and I got those employees hired back with my colleagues. And so what I would say is it is incredibly important that we have bipartisan representation in Washington. And what the Democrats are trying to do here is ensure that there'll never be another Republican representing our city on the federal level.
I'm glad you mentioned DOJ. The story today on the Bloomberg terminal that FEMA has halted planned terminations of some temporary disaster relief workers in advance of the storm that we started our conversation on here, knowing that over the last year, some 3,700 FEMA employees have been cut, which is 14% of the agency. Do you worry about the impact on the federal level here that worker cuts have had when it comes to storm preparedness?
Well, look, I think that a lot of these agencies do have bloat. There is bureaucracy. There is some savings to be had. I also think that we need to be targeted and use precision when doing this. Like, we can't just fire employees that are needed. So I haven't been able to look at exactly what FEMA has announced here, but certainly I will be very vocal if it's going to be something that would impact my district, as I have when it came to the World Trade Center employees or other areas of our federal government. But certainly everybody knows there's a lot of bloat and bureaucracy in Washington, and when we can find efficiencies to not only bring our debt down, but to also protect the taxpayers, which we have a fiscal fiduciary responsibility to do, then we need to take that action.
Well, I appreciate your joining us today, Congresswoman. We'd like to stay in touch as you bring your case to the courts, and we wish you luck with the big storm this weekend. We'll see you on the other side.